Hello, we are Team Doze with Design Review 2.2 for our medical monitor. My name is Wesley Tiff.
Clara Hall.
My name is Drew Bell.
Daniel.
Justin Mack.
Guan Win.
On to the next slide. So here we have our essential performance features, which include our pill and liquid dispenser, our locking system on the side, our grab tray, which is included into our front panel, and our scheduling, which we are currently working on. For video purposes only, we have to explain, and when we are in person, we will have a more physical demonstration going on. So moving on to the next slide where we can show basic functions. We have our video in the upper left, which includes our keypad for customizability. It is still a work in progress, but as you can see in the video, it does work, even though it's moving fast. In the bottom left, we have our whole unit where everything fits in, our electrical, pill, liquid. We still have a little bit of room here and there that we can fit additional things. On the bottom, in the middle, we have our electrical housing for our motor units only. We still have to incorporate minor housing for other units. And on the right, we have a video with our testing feature for our lock in our tray system, which someone tries to get into. Moving on to our next slides.
Okay, so this is a quick overview of all of our specifications. As you can see, we have several specifications that we already have a great start on and or have actually completed testing for, as well as some that may need future discussion with you professors or still have quite a bit of work to do. So on to the next slide, we'll get into the specifications that are green. So starting off our specifications with that have been both met and tested. SF004 states that when the locking system is enabled, the user shall not be able to open the door with their bare hands. This directly correlates to SF005, which is right below it, which states that no user shall be able to access the circuitry and logic components other than the designated user interfaces outside of the system, like the screen. And so these two specifications were tested together as all the circuitry was inside of the refrigerator during the testing. And this includes the battery, which we were happy to find out fits inside of the fridge because we have enough space. So to test the system, we asked 5 different users to perform 6 trials of each attempting to break in with their bare hands. So these users included Makana, Luke, Quan, Logan, and Ethan. And all of these attempts passed the specification requirements as no user in any single trial was able to access the inner components of the fridge. We did get a few comments, however, that will help us with future adjustments. Luke was able to touch the bottom of one of the pill dispensers by reaching through the grab tray. Though he was unable to pull the grab tray out, he was able to reach up and touch the bottom of the motor, even though he wasn't able to do anything more because it's just the motor housing unit. And Ethan observed that if someone with more strength was to try and break in for a longer period of time, the pin that holds the fridge to the door could potentially come loose with significant force. So these are 2 things that we will look into fixing next quarter, though they are both easy adjustments, and for the specifications overall, they were still a pass for our trials. So on to SF006, the specification talks about the cleaning instructions being provided for the user to service the device. And in order to pass this specification, our team created a detailed set of cleaning instructions that highlights when to clean what areas of the medicine monitor and what kinds of cleaning techniques are okay and not okay. This cleaning manual, I will bring copies of to the in-person presentation so that you guys can look at it, but it discusses the safety concerns around cleaning both PLA and circuitry. So to test these specifications, we asked 5 users who are unfamiliar with the cleaning instructions to read them and assess whether or not they could clean the medicine monitor. All of these trials were passed with some comments asking for the manual to clarify small things such as what PLA is, like the electrical engineer, Makana, who tried to read these instructions didn't know what that was. And so we adjusted that to just specify what PLA is, and that specification is also a pass. That specification is also a pass.
All right, so for the next specification, the UI01, you can go back 1 slide. One. For the next specification, UI01, the system shall alert the user to take medication via lights. We we completed the testing for the light alert, but we are currently going to work on the buzzer or audible alarm functionality. And we had analysis for that alarm, which is in our engineering analysis, but the component has been misplaced before the testing was completed for that. So currently we just have the light alert for the user. And that's a simple system with an LED resistor attached to our data port on the Arduino. So that passed our spec, and the tests were really simple for that one. We just had to make sure that the light was visible flashing. And then next. Okay. For the DF002, the cost, we were able to, using our bill of materials, we've continuously been updating changes to ensure that the total project costs fall within our budget. And we have currently spent a total of $390, with projected costs. Future spending is going to be about $490. So that is a total of $880, which meets our specification. And we decided against purchasing a new fridge or wine cooler for our final model, which would save $300 worth of spending and future costs, which we can now use for purchasing the electrical lock system or any other additional components that we might need. And next, for the weight DF003, our weight specification, using a scale, the unit weight with all components inside was 54.4 pounds. And that's well within our maximum threshold of 100 pounds and is much better for our application as well. So our series of tests for that were simply just weighing it on a scale. And we're not going to talk about should, but we are also within that just on the edge of that. So it's looking good for the specification. And then next.
Yeah, and for specification DF006, the specification states that the fridge shall remain between 13 and 25 inches in width and 13 to 75 inches in height. Our testing of this specification includes a simple external measurement of both the height and width, which we determined the width of the fridge to be 18 inches and the height to be 17 inches. This is on the lower end of our specification, but is within the required specification, which we'll make sure through spring quarter it will stay within, and we are confident it will be passed. In specification RL002, the system's liquid medicine storage shall remain between the temperature range of 35 and 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Through our temperature testing with our temperature sensor, we discovered the interior temperature to be 35.6 degrees with the grab tray door completely closed. Furthermore, in testing, we also tested a temperature increase inside when the grab tray is open, starting with 5 seconds and increasing every 5 seconds up to 60. Through this testing, we learned the unit remains within the expected temperature range of the specification with a high of 41 degrees when open, which is within the specification. For specification RL004, the grab tray shall properly catch dispensed medication that is dispensed between 90 to 100% of the time. Through our 30 trials of testing that we've completed so far, the reliability of the grab tray, all the trials in our testing were deemed successful in catching both the liquid and pill and medication that was dispensed and easily accessible for the patient to take.
So all the spec in blue shown below that could have been green if there wasn't a problem with the microcontroller and the wires. When we test out our specification last week, the microcontroller got overheated and produced smoke. Therefore, we couldn't get the testing done. So for OL001, to set this spec, we took about 30 trials for each of the liquid and a dry dispenser. For a trial to be considered a success, the dispenser must be placed inside the fridge with all the system and able to dispense medicine directly into the crab tray. In addition, the motor must turn the dispensing device by the exact amount, which is 45 degrees, with little uncertainty allowed. As we mentioned, there was a problem with the microcontroller and it caused the motor to not spin correctly for more than 3 times, even though it worked perfectly last quarter. But whenever it was able to dispense, the medicine fell right into the crab tray, just like how we wanted. Same thing happened to the liquid dispenser. Therefore, we can conclude that this specification is still a success, and it started as blue because it did work in the past, and we are confident that we could get it to work next quarter by fixing the electrical circuit. For OL003, we want the medicine to be dispensed within 3 minutes of the scheduled time. We are confident that we could meet this requirement, and for this spec to be considered a success, because of a problem with the microcontroller and faulty wires, we had to postpone the testing until spring quarter. And for OL005, for this analysis, we want the dry dispenser to be able to hold at least 2 different combinations of medicine. To solve this problem, mechanical engineer have designed a pill capsule that will fit in the dispensing compartment. The dry medicine dispenser will be able to hold 7 of these capsules. User will be able to put in any pills they want inside the capsule, meaning that our dispenser will be able to dispense all kinds of pills. Therefore, this specification has a blue status, but we know for sure we could get it to work. We just need to test it next quarter.
For DF001, we have all the liquid dispensers that fit inside the fridge. Currently, they do fit. However, they are still a little bit wobbly and need to be tested to make sure that there's no issues on that end. We will test that next during spring quarter when that comes around. For DF004, there needs to be additional storage for each medicine that is not loaded into the dispensers. We have our freezer component up in the corner, which in one of our images we can show. It does have additional room, however, we have yet to build housing for it, as it can fall out of the back if it does not have the housing. We are still working on that currently and have plans for it coming up in spring quarter as well. For DF005, the dispensers should be able to hold their own pills and their own liquids with vials of their choice. We have tested it with empty vials and Tic Tacs currently, which can be swapped out with anything of different sizes. We are sure that this will work in next quarter, and we'll test with actual pills and actual filled vials to make sure that it works properly.
For UI003, this is the spec that asks for the system to allow programmable daily medicine dispensation at least once, and the current system we have using a keypad and LCD screen allows for programming for far more than once and on any selection of days the user desires. However, it has not yet been integrated into the rest of the main system and is thus classified as blue, though we do believe it will be done soon.
For SF001, our specification, this is for the backup battery, which says the dispensation system shall be able to run the internal features continuously for 2 hours on backup battery power in case if the mains power supply is disconnected. And this applies to everything except for the refrigeration system. We tested the original design on week 8 and it needed redesigning for the battery power and switching capacity. The main charging component originally didn't function or as described or come with sufficient instructions or data for use. So we redesigned it and the new design was built and functional, but due to a rewiring error, the board shorted out before we could complete the testing. So a new switching module will be installed this week to restart the testing for spring break and next quarter. And our meeting of the specification is also dependent on the total power drawn from the fully functioning unit. And that also includes things that aren't fully determined, such as the caregiver alerting system and other system and user interface features, including the electrical locking system, which we may be adding. But other than that, we're just continuing to test for this, and we do have our system functional. So we'll just have to be working on that testing and hopefully move this into the blue and then green going forward. Sec.
Recording.
Perfect.
There we go.
All right.
All
For
right.
For DF001, we have all the liquid dispensers that fit inside the fridge. Currently, they do fit. However, they are still a little bit wobbly and need to be tested to make sure that there's no issues on that end. We will test that next during spring quarter when that comes around. For DF004, there needs to be additional storage for each medicine that is not loaded into the dispensers. We have our freezer component up in the corner, which in one of our images we can show. It does have additional room, however, we have yet to build housing for it as it can fall out of the back if it does not have the housing. We are still working on that currently and have plans for it coming up in spring quarter as well. For DF005, the dispensers should be able to hold their own pills and their own liquids with vials of their choice. We have tested it with empty vials and Tic Tacs currently, which can be swapped out with anything of different sizes. We are sure that this will work in next quarter, and we'll test with actual pills and actual filled vials to make sure that it works properly.
For UI003, this is the spec that asks for the system to allow programmable daily medicine dispensation at least once, and the current system we have using a keypad and LCD screen allows for programming for far more than once and on any selection of days the user desires. However, it has not yet been integrated into the rest of the main system and is thus classified as blue, though we do believe it will be done soon.
All right, so for SF001, this system is for the backup battery, which says that the dispensation system shall be able to run all internal features continuously for at least 2 hours on backup battery power in case of the main power is disconnected. And this applies to everything other than refrigeration. For this, we tested the original design on week 8, and it needed redesigning for the backup battery power and switching capacity. And that was because the main charging component originally didn't come with sufficient instructions or data for use, and it didn't function as.
She's gone.
All right.
Oh, wait, no, just kidding. What happened, Drew?
Did I get disconnected?
You
Yeah,
did. We
right
got
when you
nothing.
started talking.
Oh,
All right.
well,
gotta go
I
again.
thought that was the Zoom. My bad.
All right. You're gonna have to go again. Yep. All right.
Okay, well, let's just start at SF0.
Yeah, we'll just start here. All right. We're still recording. Okay. For SF001, our specification, this is for the backup battery, which says the dispensation system shall be able to run the internal features continuously for 2 hours on backup battery power in case if the main power supply is disconnected. And this applies to everything except for the refrigeration system. We tested the original design on week 8, and it needed redesigning for the battery power and switching capacity. The main charging component originally didn't function or as described or come with sufficient instructions or data for use. So the new design was built and functional. We redesigned it and it was new. Oh my gosh. So we redesigned it and the new design was built and functional, but due to a rewiring error, the board shorted out before we could complete the testing. So a new switching module will be installed this week to restart the testing for spring break in next quarter. And our meeting of the specification is also dependent on the total power drawn from the fully functioning unit. And that also includes things that aren't fully determined, such as the caregiver alerting system and other system and user interface features, including the electrical locking system, which we may be adding. But other than that, we're just continuing to test for this, and we do have our system functional. So we'll just have to be working on that testing and hopefully move this into the blue and then green going forward.
Okay, so also moving on to, oh, Quan, will you go back, please? Moving on to SF003, this is a specification that we have had a plan to solve, but haven't gotten to printing out the parts needed to implement the safety feature. So this specification discusses medicine spillage during break-ins or during transportation, and it has not yet been met or tested, but the plan to implement this design is complete, and in spring quarter we will finish designing and we will be printing covers for the liquid medicine dispensers that cover all but the drop slot, so that during times of tippling, no liquid medicine will fall out. Similarly, we plan to have lids for the pill dispensers that cover both the pill capsules and also mount the pill medicine unit in general. permanently into the into the fridge. So yeah, so this will ensure that nothing falls out of place during times of transportation or times of a break-in attempt. And so even though we have not finished this specification yet, we are more than confident that we can finish this, test it, and pass the specification early on into spring quarter, because it just requires printing some parts that we already know what we're gonna print.
For UI 002, this spec specifies that the display, that the interactable display in the front of the door will have the day and the current day and time, as well as the next scheduled day and time with other intermittent alerts as necessary. Now, this is orange because we currently though we are planning installation of a clock module onto the Arduino in order so we can keep time, it has not arrived yet, and therefore we cannot test this at this moment. Our alternative is to use Wi-Fi capability to connect and determine the time that way, but that also has not been proven to work yet. For SF002, for the system having a way to regularly notify a caregiver in case of any irregularity in the system within 5 minutes, this is the one spec that we are having in trouble meeting, but is unfortunately quite essential to our project and are currently working our hardest to resolve. We have attempted to send emails or Android notifications using various methods and different microcontroller boards and applications, but none have achieved the desired effect. We still have some items to try out, and our options with our existing hardware, the MKR 1000, for example, have not been exhaustive, yet we have not yet seen any success. Our current focus is on the ESP2866 model in conjunction with the Arduino Mega. Alternatively, we are looking into an SMS messaging system in order to substitute.
Looking ahead at our spring break and week 1 schedule, we have laid out a schedule and plan to address the specifications that went untested or are in progress of completing. This includes searching and purchasing various parts over break and focusing on certain critical components such as the grab tray and lock reconstruction, and also Wi-Fi capability. As we reconvene in week 1, our goal is to design and construct various housing units, which will have been split up accordingly among the MEs, and construct the master program and circuit construction for the EE and CPE. This includes just various housing that we haven't got into yet because it's not as important as we just wish to complete the functionality aspect of our prototype before a lot of this housing will clean up and organize a lot of the interior space. As we go on to the next slide, this is a list of the monitoring of the progress we have made on each of the specifications shared earlier, which will allow us to identify areas we have completed and need to continue making progress in. It's just as we shared through this presentation. This is where we are at with each of the specs that we've shared. And yeah, we will thank you for your time listening through our presentation, and look forward to addressing any questions or concerns you have over our project.
Thank you. I realize we need to add